why Denmark is suddenly declaring war on immigration.
Exactly, like that's the first thing, right? It's not really a sudden thing. I mean, they're also gonna like go into the timeline of it through the video, but it's not really a sudden thing. Like, uh, anti-immigration policy has been mainstream since 2015 in Denmark. So, I know you might not think it because Denmark is right next to Sweden, to Germany, which have all just had absolutely horrendous immigration policies, right? Completely undermined the country, the safety, like the crime statistics are just insane, right? But Denmark actually has been very tough on immigration for like a fairly long time. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to watch this video and give some thoughts on it as well.
Is Denmark, a country of just over 6 million people. For
Finally
decades,
got
it's been famous for being one of the happiest places on earth. Universal health care, free education, a society built on trust.
This is the reason, by the way, you can't accept a bunch of immigrants, is because the people are going to come in there and they're not going to have these values. They're going to change everything, and they're going to be a drain on all these systems. Systems like this only work in extremely high trust societies that are generally homogenous.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely correct, right? Like in Denmark, you have pretty high education, right? Because it's free. So people in general make a lot of money. It's a fairly complex economy. So, you have to, in order to be able to contribute to the Danish society, you actually have to be quite highly educated. You have to be highly skilled, right? So, yeah, he's absolutely 100% right.
Quality. But recently, something changed. In 2021, Denmark's prime minister stood...
I mean, not that recently, to be fair. Since 2015, it's been mainstream, as I said before.
In front of Parliament and said something that shocked the world. We can't promise 0 asylum seekers, but we can set that vision and do what we can to implement it. Not fewer refugees, not stricter limits. 0
absolutely 0
asylum seekers, period. And she meant it. Denmark passed a law to ship asylum seekers to Rwanda.
Well, what are you going to do with them? We're going to send them to Africa. There you go. I love it.
6,000 kilometers away, so they'd never even set foot on Danish soil. They started seizing jewelry and cash from refugees at the border. They're demolishing entire neighborhoods to break up immigrant communities. They're forcing 1-year-old children in immigrant areas to attend mandatory daycare for 25 hours a week to learn Danish values.
That's right. And even that, I mean, if they're not going to have, if they don't want their kid to learn Danish values, then why not just deport them? Why not just get rid of them? Why are you having immigrants coming into your country that actively want to be leeches on your system and hate your country? What kind of a fucking value is that? It's retarded. Yeah, what? Why would you even do this? Deport them. Yeah, get rid of them. What a stupid thing.
Or their families lose welfare benefits. This isn't some far-right fringe party. This is the center-left Social Democrats.
Yeah, because it's what makes sense. It's common sense. This is what's going to happen all over Europe, and it's happening in America too.
It's also, it goes across the line because it is actually mainstream policy. And also, I think actually the Social Democrats, they say it the best, right? They say, I don't know if they're going to mention this in the video, probably not, but they say, if you're claiming to be defending the workers, right, the working class, you have to be tough on immigration and you have to be anti, these illegal immigration, asylum seekers, right? Because they undermine the working class. It's easy to be, have your university education and say, all right, well, we'll just import a shitload of uneducated immigrants because it's gonna, it's not their jobs that they're gonna be taking, right? So it's gonna be the workers that will suffer, and you do see that. I think you see that many places.
The only unfortunate thing is that there's so many people who are totally captured. Like European countries have it a lot worse than we do as Americans with their migrant and refugee crises.
Absolutely.
And so we don't really see
It's
it as bad as
insane.
they do. But once
It's
things
insane in
start
the
actually
EU.
affecting people on an everyday basis, this is going to be widespread everywhere.
Party of the working class.
And also, like
Yeah, also, I think, it really is beginning to become widespread. Like, if you look to Germany, they've been insanely open under Merkel, and, you see the AfD are beginning to win a lot of votes because none of the established parties actually take, any serious stance on immigration, right? The CDU is beginning to, but it's been kind of, if you actually value or if you prioritize immigration policy, you had to vote AfD. So they've just kind of been letting all the asylum seekers in and just kind of been doing that until people begin to vote for the AfD. So it's like, it's a self-caused problem in the case of Germany as well.
entire concept of talking about this is ridiculous. Like, we're talking about an idea of what should happen, right? Whether it's happening right now is kind of irrelevant, isn't it?
That built Denmark's famous welfare state. And the Danish people, most of them love it. The Prime Minister's approval ratings hit record highs. So what happened? How did one of the world's most liberal countries become a fortress? Today,
because you have to keep it a fortress, because in order to preserve liberal values, you can't import a bunch of people that have extremely regressive, aggressive values that want to change the culture and do what they want to do. You can't just invite anybody in and assume that people are these interchangeable units that are not coming in with their own values. Like, if you're bringing in a bunch of people from a country that thinks that women should be property, you're going to have more people in that country that don't respect the idea of women's sexual autonomy.
Absolutely true. I mean, also part of it is that it's the Danish, values that built the Danish country and the Danish system. But also that when you have a generous welfare state, basically you're handing out money. And so you need tight walls or big walls because, let's say you come from Afghanistan, all right, well, you'd probably, in the monetary terms, you'd probably be better off being jobless in Denmark, getting social benefits than you would be working. I mean, you could probably work 80 hours in Afghanistan and not even make the same amount of money. You'd just be paid for doing nothing in Denmark.
If you don't think that's true, you're a retard. You are a retard, and your life is at odds with reality.
Yep.
Across the globe, we're diving into the...
It's like the walled garden, really. Yeah.
Real story behind Denmark's war on immigration, the refugee surge that changed everything, the integration crisis that nobody wanted to talk about, and the shocking policies that have turned Denmark into a model for hardliners across the West. To put it bluntly, this is a story of a country going from open arms to closed borders. So let's trace back, because Denmark wasn't always like this. For most of its modern history, Denmark prided itself on humanitarian values.
See, that's the mistake. You should have never done that.
I don't think it was a mistake. I think, you can be as cynical as you want to be, but actually, I think probably Denmark gained a lot from it, right? From the optics of it, as Asmongold also would say usually. I think it was very beneficial for Denmark to sort of be on the frontier of that because they gained a lot of, I think probably Denmark gained a lot of notoriety and a lot of international respect from that, and that in turn could be turned into some kind of brand for the country and support business. And I think the return on that opinion is quite high.
Should have never done this. You should have focused on your own people and your own problems.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
Going out and trying to, micromanage, random countries.
Yeah, also I think that is true, but it's, these these treaties that were made and agreed upon while there wasn't any problems with immigration, right? So that's the easiest time to agree on them. It's always easy to be loud and proud when you don't have any problems, right? When you don't actually have to get to the brass tacks of things. So, I mean, in that way, I don't think it was a mistake because I think Denmark was quite quick to pivot.
It was one of the first countries to sign the 1951 Refugee Convention, joining the likes of Australia, Belgium, and Germany. Like many
how's that going?
European nations rebuilding after World War II, Denmark actively recruited guest workers in the 1960s and 70s, bringing in laborers from Turkey, Pakistan, and Yugoslavia to fill critical labor shortages. The assumption was simple. They'd work, earn money, and return home. But many didn't. They stayed, brought their families, and built lives in Denmark. Then, in 1983, Denmark passed one of the most generous immigration laws in Europe, giving asylum seekers strong protections and a real path to citizenship.
See, they didn't think it was that bad then because it wasn't.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, these things become worse over time as populations change. That's it. They turned from controlled to uncontrolled immigration. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's the issue. You never let this stuff happen. People always think, oh, it's a little bit, okay, let's let this happen. I don't understand how people let their countries do this. It's just, it's a shock to me that they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an obvious problem, right? Because it's all about the incentives of things, right? So if you give asylum seekers and immigrants, maybe even illegal immigrants, all these incentives to get citizenship, well, then there's just going to be even more that are going to come illegally without contributing to the country, right? So you have to always sort of think of, well, what are the incentives? What are we incentivizing people to do, right?
So yes, for decades, Denmark quietly accepted UN quota refugees and welcomed diversity.
Why would people move their entire family, work here, and then move home? You never understood if you made a life there? Well, I don't really... The thing is that... Jesus, this gnat is flying around my face to make me so annoyed. What their best interest isn't really relevant to me because they're not citizens of the country. So whatever they're going to do and whatever they like doesn't matter. I don't care about that.
I mean, that's absolutely
it should
true.
matter what the citizens of your country want and what's in their best interest. That's it. It's literally that simple.
I mean, that's all going back to like Machiavellian theory, right? It's, the first and most important task for any government or any ruler is to secure its own population and its own state survival, right? That's the number one task. If you can't do that, you can't have a country.
Back in 1980, immigrants made up just 2.6% of Denmark's population. By 2025, that number had jumped to 12.6%.
Wow.
With another 3.7% being Danes born to...
Although I will preface this, I'm pretty sure that this 12.6%, that is all types of immigrants, so also immigrants from other EU countries, which, clearly they're not problematic because they also, it's the same kind of culture, the same education and skills, right? We have a lot of immigrants from Poland who come here to work as tradesmen, right? So builders and that kind of thing, and it contributes immensely to the economy because we are lacking a lot of trade skilled people. Yeah.
Immigrant parents.
Yep.
Nearly all of Denmark's population growth since 1980 has come from immigration. But here's the thing. This wasn't a gradual change that people got used to. It was a sudden shock that changed everything.
And that's the reason why it's so problematic.
Absolutely.
It's because a lot of these people that are doing it, they bring in an amount of immigrants where they don't need to assimilate because they just create their own insular culture inside a separate country.
Yeah.
One of Europe's smallest countries, welfare economy is under a lot of pressure. So we simply have to reduce the amount of people who travel up through Europe to specifically apply for asylum in Denmark.
The turning point came in 2015, the European migration crisis.
I don't know why. Why is it that Saudi Arabia and a lot of these other countries accept zero of these people, and Europe is just expected to accept millions of them? Why is this happening? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. Completely catastrophic, right? I mean, it's that I think that's the Merkel's Wir schaffen das policy. That's just basically, we can do it, bring them on, open doors. That was an insanely stupid, I think, policy decision that also the German parties are going back on now, because it just opened the floodgates. It just made everything 10x, 100x worse, right? Yeah, but I actually feel quite sorry for many of the other European countries, especially the southern ones like Italy and Greece, because they're part of the EU in a different way. Because Denmark, we actually have some exemptions, one of which is on immigration, so we don't actually have to share on immigration. We're not a part of the EU's immigration policy. That's why we've been able to be so strict on it, because we're exempt from it. But Italy and Greece, they're just kind of bound with their hands behind their backs.
Turkey accepts a lot?
Oh yeah, Turkey doesn't accept a lot. Turkey is paid by the EU to house immigrants, another catastrophic policy, because Turkey actually used that. They took the money, they housed the immigrants, and then they used these immigrants that they were housing as leverage over the EU in several negotiations. They said, all right, well, if we don't get our way, we'll just release all these immigrants that we're housing, that you paid us to house, and then they'll flood your borders, right? So absolutely catastrophe, yeah. So he's absolutely right. There's no responsibility from these other Muslim countries, these other Middle Eastern countries, North African countries. So I mean, why should there be any onus or any moral superiority in the EU and the European countries handling it? I mean, that's just stupid. That's retarded.
I mean, very sus, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with the people over there. As I said, if it was up to me, the answer would be zero. I would take zero of them. I would turn back every single one.
Absolutely.
This is such a massive mistake.
Million asylum seekers flooded into Europe that year, fleeing wars in Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Denmark, a country of around 6,010,000, received 21...
Saudi actively said they don't want to take in any asylum seekers? Yeah, based. Totally
of course they
That's
don't.
Smart. Why would Saudi accept it? They have nothing to gain from it? Exactly.
Yep.
1,316 asylum applications in 2015
Neither do the European countries, by the way.
To put that in perspective, Denmark received just 3,500 asylum applications in 2012. A sixfold.
Well, of course you're going to have a lot of people, and this is really what makes sense, right? Like if you lived in one of these countries that was like a shithole, basically. Yep. If you lived in a shithole country, wouldn't you want to bring your family to a place like Denmark that has free healthcare and insurance and, cheaper food, running water? Like, everybody would do this. So, Absolutely. Like, if you create an incentive, you're going to create behavior.
Because it's not just you get all these public goods, you get the free healthcare, and, you get paid to do nothing, right? Pretty much. You get paid to do nothing. So you get this cozy little apartment for free. You get all the food for free, because you're paying for it. You get money per child you get X amount of money. And it's just insane. It's just insane. Of course you'd rather do that, right? I mean, there's nowhere to go but up if you come from Afghanistan, right?
And that's really what they've done, is they've created an incentive for people to go over there and do that.
Yep.
The top 0.1% wants disposable, unskilled workers. Exactly. Like the entire idea of this like mass immigration, mass migration is an idea that's pushed by two groups of people. Useful idiot, progressives that are totally fucking delusional, and they don't realize that they're importing in a lot of people who, on average, probably are completely at odds with what their personal values are. That's number one. And the other group of people, which is ironic because all of these progressives hate these billionaires, is that they're advocating for policies that benefit billionaires.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what I said before, right? If you want to represent the weakest members of society, the working class as well, you have to be tough on immigration, and especially illegal immigration and this sort of asylum seeking immigration, right? Because it undermines the working class, it undermines the poorest people in society, right? That's who it undermines. It benefits the very rich ones, who just, they want some sort of plumbing service, and it maybe, you know, it'll decrease the price, whatever, right? The rich people, they're gonna have low labor costs, like, you know.
What do you think the benefit is for the average citizen to have a bunch of random migrants in their country? Well, there is
Absolutely.
no
It's a
benefit.
net negative.
But if you're a business owner and you can monopolize and take advantage of their labor,
Yep.
well, then now we're talking. Now we're making money. That's it. And so, yeah, now, and so
that's absolutely true. It's like a cheat code, you know. If labor costs are going up, you know, there's this sort of differentiation between land cost and labor cost, and it's sort of, all right, well, do you value land or do you value labor? And obviously, especially in Denmark, but in the rest of Europe as well, labor is very expensive. So if you can increase the supply of people, then that's naturally going to decrease the labor costs, especially for the working class, especially for the poorest people in society, right?
those are the people that really win. It's ironic that like you have all of these like progressive people and these like super empathetic suicidal empathy people that are trying to just import infinity immigrants and infinity refugees into their country. But at the same time, they're against the exact people who are the ones that are benefiting from these refugees the most.
Yeah, that, and also at the same time, it's just absolutely ruthless policy. Again, I've said it too many times now, but it's just ruthless against the working class and the poorest people of society, right? Because those are the people who will be undermined. Those are the people who are going to be living in the areas where crime is going to go up the most, right? So, and they're going to be the people ending up in so-called food desert, whatever. All these like uh, third or fourth or even fifth or 10th link events, like, right, in the sort of chain of events. They're quite far out, but they're going to happen, and it's because of this influx of low-skilled labor and illegal migrants.
Increase in 3 years. That's the most in the country's entire history. And the problem was, Denmark wasn't prepared. The system was truly overwhelmed. Small towns suddenly had refugee centers pop up overnight.
What
the government quietly allowed thousands of migrants to transit through to Sweden, which had more generous policies at the time. But the ones who stayed, many came with limited education and no Danish language skills.
Of course, they're going to be fucking useless. Yeah, obviously. So you bring in a bunch of useless people, can't speak the fucking language. They're not educated, don't know anything. And oh, wow, this is not good for the economy. I can't believe it. What a shock.
And also, I just want to add on this letting them through to Sweden thing. You know, the Swedes, they were absolutely retarded, right? The entire country were very concerned about the optics, right? Much more than what we were in Denmark. And so they, I mean, absolutely opened their doors, maybe even worse than what Germany did. So they were actually, you know, they didn't really care all that much. It was just a drop in the bucket for Sweden. Yeah, but they fucked up as well. So that was, you know, I mean, guess we sold them out, kind of, but that's the way it is.
Unlike the structured guest worker program in the past, there was no integration plan at this scale. They created a problem Denmark...
Why does there have to be a benefit? It's humanity? Well, I completely disagree, and I don't think that we should accept immigrants. I can completely understand people wanting to help. Well, you just said you agree with me, so then why would you even say that? Like, you're was this like some kind of like devil's advocate thing? Like, let me bring up a point that I don't even agree with.
Didn't know how to solve. By 2016, Denmark had reinstated border controls. They slashed refugee benefits. And then they did something extraordinary.
I mean, this is all just about, you know, aligning the incentives, right? You have to incentivize what you want to happen. So if you come for benefits, all right, well, then we're going to slash benefits because we don't want you to come.
They placed ads in Lebanese newspapers announcing they'd cut welfare for asylum seekers by 50%.
Exactly, because they know that they come to the country for welfare.
Yeah, exactly.
They're coming to the country so they can leech off of the social systems. Duh.
100%.
Obviously, that's what they would do. I mean, like, yeah, of course. Duh. I don't know how anybody would not think this.
And the problem is also that actually the the social benefits, they used to be so generous that they could actually come here and they could live for free, eat for free, do whatever they want for free, and they could still send money back to their families.
The message was blunt. Don't come here.
That's right.
You won't find paradise. The doors were closing fast. But why? Why did a country known for generosity and openness suddenly turn so hostile?
Because you can only extend generosity and openness to people that are like-minded.
Yeah, true.
If you do it to people that are not like-minded, they will use that against you and destroy the entire system that creates the generosity and open-mindedness to begin with.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Like, and you can also think of this in the sort of the game theory, right? If you trick someone, you know, it's the prisoner's dilemma, right? If one person speaks, then that person gains and the other person goes to prison, right? You don't really get a lot of chances on that. So if you have a society where nobody talks, everybody shuts the fuck up, and everybody gets off with you know, no sentence, right? They're let out free. Then if you get people in there that begin to actually chit chat, then that just fucks up the entire society. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, you know?
The truth is, Denmark had been struggling with immigration for years. They just hadn't been talking about it publicly. And when they finally did, the statistics were shocking. Denmark had accepted immigrants, mostly from the Middle East, North Africa, and Somalia for...
Yeah, this is actually the sort of the problem countries are called MENAPT, which is Middle East, North Africa, Pakistan, and Turkey. That's sort of, you know, those are the regions that are overwhelmingly represented in crime statistics, in, you know, really all the statistics that you don't want to be represented in, really. You know, drain on social benefits, low labor percentages, right? Because it's also the problem is there's a culture in these regions for men to work still and not for women. So, you know, the labor participation of women is insanely low already, right? And that just fucks up the balance of the Danish welfare state.
Decades. But integration wasn't working. Ethnic enclaves formed in Danish cities, communities where Danish wasn't the main language, where unemployment was high, education levels were low, and...
Lovely. Wow, this is making everything better. UAE is 85% immigrants, one of the safest countries in the world. The government wanted to control the situation.
Oh yeah, this is a fucking stupid comment. I'm just gonna reverse back to it. Okay, stupid comment.
UAE is 85% immigrants, one of the safest countries in the world. The government wanted to control the situation, they would.
That's fucking moronic, okay? So the reason people migrate to the UAE is because they have zero tax, and the people that actually migrate are extremely wealthy millionaires and billionaires who go there because they can, it's better economically for them to pay, you know, let's say they just buy the top of the line health insurance for $1 million a year. Well, maybe they still save something like 20, 30, 40 million dollars in taxes, right? So these are the absolutely highest performers of all the societies around the world moving to the UAE. Of course, it's going to be a fucking paradise. That what you're talking about here is some of the worst, not really worst of the worst, but people coming from uh, low education countries, low economical, badly doing countries, and then they come to a sort of mediocre or, you know, fairly wealthy country, but nothing like the UAE, right? Just to leech off of the benefits, right? People that go to the UAE, they don't leech off of that country at all. Quite the on the contrary, you know.
Well, having immigrants come in through like a system is very different than just letting people in wholesale because they say they're refugees.
That's true, but also that the people that come in through the system, those are actually high value people, right? The people that come in through the system are also high value people. Like if you want to do something, you know, if you compare it to the H1B1 visa in the USA, if you want to bring in, laborers from abroad, right? Workers from abroad that are non-EU countries, because there's different rules for EU countries. But if you want to bring people or workers from countries outside the EU, they have to make X amount of money as a yearly salary, and that is actually that salary they have to make. The threshold is, I think, $10,000 above the average or the median wage, something like that. So it's going to be bringing in high value people that are going to contribute to the society, right? A net benefit.
Crime was a growing problem. The government started calling these areas ghettos, not as an insult, but an official designation. If a neighborhood had more than 50% non-Western immigrants and scored poorly on employment, education, and crime, it got labeled a ghetto. By 2018, Danish politicians were openly saying these immigrant-heavy districts were a threat to national unity. The government...
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how did people not see this ahead of time? How did you think that importing in a bunch of random people from third world countries or even developing countries that don't speak your language and have no education is going to be a positive for your country? How could you possibly believe this?
Plan was titled A Denmark Without Parallel Societies, No Ghettos by 2030, explicitly framing these neighborhoods as threats to social cohesion and the welfare state.
100%.
Prime Minister at the time,
the people that are in there, they're not contributing to the system in the same way. Like,
no,
I mean,
exactly. I mean, the problem is actually that they're leeching on the system. So, they're draining the system. So the sort of the average citizen or immigrant from the MENAPT countries, even if they spent their entire life in Denmark, there's still going to be a net drain on public finances. I don't think they bring up that statistic in this video, but that's that's what the Minister of Finance found out.
They can't even speak the language.
Loki Rasmussen stated in his 2018 New Year's speech that ghettos could reach out their tentacles onto the street.
We didn't import them. They came walking in with hundreds of thousands due to war and hunger. And we should have told them to turn around.
I mean, kind of, but not really, because the people coming, it's mostly like military-aged men. It's not women and children, right? When you look at the boats, it's like 99% men in their 20s or 30s, right? So that's not true.
Go back.
By spreading violence, and that cracks have appeared on the map of Denmark. And the numbers backed up what he was saying. Immigrants made up about 14% of Denmark's population, but they accounted for 29% of violent crime convictions. That's more than double their share of the population.
Wow, what a surprise. Who could have guessed?
Then there was
big
the
shocker there.
In 2018, Denmark's Ministry of Finance released a bombshell report. Immigrants from non-Western countries and their children cost Denmark a net 31 billion kroner.
Yep.
Duh.
Yeah, look at that. You see, that's the MENAPT
Holy
statistic.
shit. Obviously. It's probably way more. And yeah, that's the stuff that you know about. That's the stuff that's obvious.
That's actually absolutely true, actually, because I haven't read the fine print of the statistics, but probably it doesn't actually include things like there's higher rates of crime, right? So they're more likely to steal from grocery stores. So it probably doesn't account for the losses to private individuals and private companies.
What's
That's
that? Their
about
currency.
4.2 billion euros in a single year. Danish taxpayers were stunned. A relatively small immigrant population was creating a massive drain on the welfare state they'd spent generations building. But nothing made immigration...
See, I'm a very big fan of welfare states. I think welfare states are good, but you really can't maintain a welfare state and let a bunch of people come in because they'll fuck up the balance.
Absolutely true. Like the welfare state, this goes back to sort of the work ethic, right? Which is that the Danish welfare state is calibrated to all women and men working, right? So, of course, not everyone is going to be able to work. Sometimes you're going to be between jobs, right? But that's part of the balance, and it's calibrated to that. So if you then just bring in a lot of people where half of them don't even want to work because it's not part of their culture, then that just throws off the balance of the entire scale.
I'm a favor of universal basic income, universal, free childcare, etc. But it has to be for citizens only, and the people that come into that system have to be extremely highly qualified. You can't just let a bunch of random fucking people from third world countries come in and then just think, oh well, everything is going to turn out okay. It's not. It's obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's basically right. I don't think it's unfair to extend those benefits to high value contributing immigrants. I think that's very fair. I mean, if you pay your taxes and you work and pay your taxes, I mean, I think you should be able to get healthcare, able to get childcare. I mean, because that's the way the system works. You know, if you fit into the balance of the scales of the Danish welfare state, you know, there's no problem. But the problem is that these cultures from these countries, they don't fit in on the scale. So they throw the balance.
Obviously not. If they have no skills and don't contribute, fuck them. Yeah, it's just so obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
The balance is fucked even with Germany was 80% immigrants. Well, I don't know about that.
What?
A racist Republican socialist? What, duh? Well, it's not racist at all to say. I mean, I wouldn't care if they were white or not. Doesn't make a difference.
I mean, it has nothing
the problem
to do
is the
with
culture,
race.
the language that they speak, and the fact that they're not skilled in order to do jobs that increase the value of the country.
Absolutely.
So whenever you look at those three things, are those three things occurring? No, they're not. So it doesn't matter what race they are. It has nothing to do with it. The race guy? Yeah, and also, by the way, that language doesn't work anymore. Nobody cares about being called racist anymore. Nobody gives a shit. Yeah, go back to 2015.
More personal than housing. Denmark already had one of the most expensive housing markets in Europe. Prices were skyrocketing. Young Danes couldn't afford to buy homes. Renters were being squeezed out of cities. And then in 2025, a groundbreaking study came out.
Issue.
It found that over 60% of Denmark's house price boom since 1999 could be...
I wonder if any of this could be applied to the United States.
That's actually insane.
God, I really wonder. I wonder if there's any way that we could apply this to the United States. No way, right? Like, it's got to be total.
I mean, I will say, I don't blame this on the immigrants coming. I think if you do that, you're a moron. I think you have to blame this particular housing crisis, or it's not really a crisis in Denmark, but it is a major issue. I think you have to blame that on the politicians because, you know, this is over a 17-year period. They had plenty of time and room to build affordable housing, or at least to make policy that would enable affordable housing, right? But in fact, they probably did about the opposite, to where if you put in a new kitchen, you can just hike the rents an insane degree. So yeah, I don't think this is something to blame the immigrants for. I think you still have to keep, you know, you have to make sure that you hold the politicians responsible for what they can do and what they can fix and what their job is to fix. And the housing market, I think, that's their issue, right? So it's their responsibility. I think in Denmark, the politicians, I think they did a good job on immigration, but they did a bad job on the housing. Absolutely.
Totally different over there.
Directly attributed to immigration-driven population growth.
Not on the same scale. It's probably not as bad. No.
More than half of the housing crisis blamed on immigration. The study showed that in areas where the immigrant population grew by just 1% over 5 years, home prices jumped 11% and rents rose 6%.
Well, yeah, of course, because the homes are not being built as fast as the people are coming into the country, so it's going to rise the prices up because you have more competition. This is basic economics. Anybody could expect this to happen.
But again, it's the politicians'
started
fault.
Moving out of immigrant-heavy neighborhoods.
Of course.
What researchers called white flight, which only spread the housing crunch to other areas. People were furious. Suddenly, immigration wasn't just an abstract political issue. It was personal. It was affecting where people could live.
See, this is what's going to happen in America for people to take this seriously, and other countries in Europe, is that once people start actually experiencing the effects of this stuff themselves and they start feeling the pressure of it themselves, then you'll finally start seeing them taking it seriously.
How much they got paid, whether they could afford a future in their own country.
Yep.
And there was a political earthquake brewing in the background. This is where Danish politics gets really interesting. For years, a far-right party called the Danish People's Party had been screaming about immigration. They were treated like fringe extremists. But in 2015, they won 21.1% of the vote.
Wow.
And 37 seats in the Folketing.
See, this is, I think, what's going to continue happening is that...
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. This 2015, that's also when it became mainstream, right? That's when the center-left party began, and all the other parties, for that matter, began to mimic their policy, to the point that actually now this Danish People's Party, they're not even the toughest on immigration, because it's just, it just became a competition. Who can be the toughest gets the voters, right? But also, I just want to make a comment. I'm pretty sure I know for a fact this isn't actually a clip from a Danish context. I'm pretty sure this is like the Swedish or Norwegian politicians, government. Yeah, just want to mention that.
Especially when people feel unsafe, that is like a prime concern that people have.
Yep.
And if you're not addressing that concern, they'll find somebody who does. And
Absolutely.
in a lot of cases, the people that do might be violent or aggressive or problematic in other ways, but it won't matter to them.
The second largest.
I mean, and that's what you see in Germany right now with the AfD, actually. I'm sorry just to pause it just after he unpaused it. But that's what you see, because none of the established political parties actually wanted to go anti-immigration. So really you had to say, all right, well, if immigration is an important issue for me, I have to vote for the AfD. And I think, there's a fair amount of evidence that the AfD there are some problematic peripheral policies that they have, but they're the only ones that are anti-immigration. And it's just fanning the flame when the German government wants to, or talks about banning the AfD, right? They have to keep the immigration discussion going. They can't just shut it down and say, well, you can't have this opinion. If you have this opinion, then you can just shut the fuck up. I mean, that's just going to radicalize people even more, right?
Largest party in Denmark for the first time in its history. So now they were propping up the government and demanding stricter immigration policies. Here's the thing. Most countries would panic about this. The far right taking power, democracy in crisis. But Denmark did something different. The mainstream parties, including the center-left Social Democrats, looked at those election results and made a calculation. If we don't take this issue seriously, we'll lose everything.
That's exactly it. And that's what I think, that's what Americans need to do too, is that you keep, like, never compromise with this kind of stuff. The amount of, refugees and asylum seekers and completely uneducated people that speak English coming into America, the number of those people there should be, the answer is zero. Should be zero. Literally zero. Any answer besides that is the wrong answer.
So they stole the far right's platform.
Don't compromise.
Mette Frederiksen, the Social Democratic leader,
this stealing the far right's platform, one of the greatest politically strategic maneuvers in Danish history. Maybe even political history. I don't know about that. I think, but really just a genius strategy.
Once criticized Denmark's immigration laws as the toughest in Europe. But by 2019, he was campaigning on a promise to stop immigration from
Keir Starmer did the same thing in the UK. And people in the US have done the same thing too. What about South African white farmer refugees? I don't give a fuck about them. Why would I care? It's South Africa. I don't live in South Africa. Why would I care about South Africa?
On Western countries entirely. And it worked.
You know what? I'm going to ban you. I'm going to ban you for that. You're getting banned? Because it's very obvious what you're doing, right?
She won. Her approval rating soared. And the far-right Danish People's Party, their vote share collapsed.
Oh.
Because why vote for the far right when the mainstream left is already doing what you want? Today, there's a rare cross-party consensus in Denmark. Both left and right agree. Minimize refugee intake, enforce strict integration,
of course there's still parties
Danish
that
culture. It's not even
on that,
controversial anymore.
Yeah, I feel like if you just adopted policies, they didn't really lose, did they?
Yeah.
So what did Denmark
I mean, they lost power, but it's like 80% are anti-migration now, so it's
actually
it's
do? Yeah. How far did they go?
A Danish minister is defending plans to strip migrants of cash and valuables to pay for their keep.
Let's quickly run through some of the most shocking policies to paint a better picture. The jewelry law. In 2016, Denmark passed a law allowing police to confiscate cash and valuables from asylum seekers. Anything worth more than about $1,500 to pay for their upkeep. The
Holy shit. Wow. Refugees in Denmark must declare assets worth more than $1,400?
The world called it the jewelry law and condemned it as inhumane.
Oh.
Denmark enforced it anyway.
Okay, well, if it's inhumane, then leave. Get out.
The ghetto package. In 2018, Denmark...
Dude. These names... The ghetto package?
Yeah, very straightforward.
Designated certain immigrant neighborhoods as official ghettos and created special rules. Immigrants living in these areas face double punishments for crimes. And here's the wildest part. Children as young as 1 year old are required to attend 25 hours per week of mandatory daycare to learn Danish values. Christmas, democracy, gender equality. If parents refuse, they lose welfare benefits.
No. If they refuse, they should get deported. The whole family should get deported. You don't want to be part of the culture? Good. Yeah. You're not.
I mean, absolutely. The problem is just that with deporting, it's actually quite hard to do because many of the people that come here illegally and seek asylum, they they discard of all their paperwork. So it's hard to know where they actually come from. So it's hard to know where to deport them to, right? You see this also with videos from the boats that, when they get closer to the shorelines of Italy, Greece, that kind of stuff, they just they cut or just throw their driving licenses aboard, right? So it's more difficult to do. But, the best thing you can do is to cut the sort of flow of immigrants off at the source, which is coming to the country in the first place, right?
That's not far enough.
The government is literally forcing toddlers into state-run cultural training.
Good. Deserved. Necessary. Absolutely necessary.
I mean, I will say that's kind of a negative framing he uses, state-run social training. But, you have to assimilate, you have to socialize. Otherwise, it's just going to, end in the shitter, really.
This policy was so extreme that Denmark was hauled before the EU Court of Justice on charges of racial discrimination.
Yeah, I will add to this, though, actually, that the Danish government has pioneered a sort of a charge or petition to amend the human rights something, some treaty on immigration, right? What are the responsibilities of the countries to take asylum seekers in, because it's just not working under the current system, right? So I know Italy and probably also Poland, they supported that as well, right? So it's exciting to see what's going to happen there because I don't remember having ever seen a treaty like that amended before.
Of course, guys.
But actually, sorry, I had to pause again, but it also just follows along that the EU judiciary system, the EU courts, are famously activist, right? So they will go out of their way to sort of shape the EU and the implementation of EU laws to the way they see fit. So I think that's kind of sucks, you know, because I'm not anti-EU. I'm actually fairly pro-EU, but that's not a good thing. That's not a good look for the EU. It also just gives credible ammunition to anyone who is anti-EU.
Denmark's response? They defended it anyway. To them, breaking up these neighborhoods and forcing integration wasn't discrimination. It was necessary to preserve Danish society. Revoking Syrian refugees. In 2020, Denmark started revoking residence permits for Syrian refugees, claiming parts of Syria were now safe to return to. Hundreds of Syrians.
Well, even if they're, I think this is a bad argumentation, because the implication behind it is that another country's state of like war or not has any bearing on how a sovereign country should be obligated to behave. It doesn't matter whether the country's at war or not. That doesn't mean that a country like Denmark is obligated to take in a bunch of people. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I think he's right about this, but I think it's also, I mean, theoretically, he's right, and maybe that's the way it should be. It should be, but I think in practice, you know, it would at the very least it would take some time to change the system in that manner.
Doesn't make any sense. So, like, even though I kind of agree with this, I still think that they're using language and logic that is created by people who hate them and want to undermine them. And
I mean, also they have to use this language, right? Because it is part of the laws that they have, that Denmark has agreed to uphold, right? So if they don't say it, then they're going to be legally liable, right? So it's, you know, whether they think that it's actually safe to go back to Syria or not, that doesn't really matter. When you say it, that's sort of plausible deniability, right? You can say, oh, well, you know, we have these reports that say it's safe, so we're going to do it anyway now.
You should never use language and argumentation that's been created and a frame of reference of argument that's been created by a person who wants you to lose.
I mean, that's true, but it's about the legal liability, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Nordics flip pretty fast? Yeah, I'd say so. There's a point where it can possibly be dangerous precedent having these requirements. Well, I don't know about that.
Lived in Denmark for years, learned the language, got jobs.
I'm sorry again, but I just think also when you think back to this about incentives alignment, right? I don't think it's a good idea just to agree with what Asmongold says, it's not a good idea to create a situation where foreign situations dictate what happens internally in your country, right? That's not a good situation. That's really bad, actually.
They were told to go back or stay in deportation camps. Denmark became the first country in Europe to do this. The Rwanda Plan. Inspired by Australia's offshore detention model, Denmark passed a law in 2021 to send asylum applicants to Rwanda for processing. Not temporary detention, permanent processing. The idea is that no asylum seeker ever sets foot in Denmark. Ever. The plan passed Parliament.
What? You can just do that? Holy shit. It never happened? Yeah, people are saying it didn't happen. Would your opinion on asylum seekers change if the home country always put their own citizens first? Why would I even think about their country? Why would I even for a second think about it? There's no bearing on the decision making of the government.
70 to 24. It's not some fringe idea. It's mainstream policy.
Thank God.
Banning Islamic practices. Denmark banned full-face veils in public in 2018. They've proposed banning the call to prayer. They've cracked down on foreign imams. All in the name...
I would say that the full-face veil, I kind of agree with that in places where it's like, okay, well, if you need to be able to see what somebody looks like for crime reasons... then like exactly. Walking, like I feel the same way about walking around in a ski mask, basically, right? So like if you have people that are walking around and
I mean, and this is absolutely true, but or not but and this law, right, while it does ban these, I think burqas they're called, that cover the entire face, they also ban ski masks, they also ban hockey masks. You know, they ban sort of anything that covers your face that makes it impossible to identify you when you're in public, right? So that's the way. So you could wear the corona mask, you could wear that because you could see the top half of your face. But it was actually kind of on the verge or on the fence about the corona mask because it's not that easy to identify you even though you're wearing it.
The stores with a ski mask, I would, as a store owner, not want those people to come into my store. So
Yep.
under the same logic, I would feel the same way about people that wear veils also.
Absolutely.
So like it's not really about whether it's religious or not, or whether it's Islamic or not. It's about the fact that it obscures your face and it makes it harder for people to identify you.
Yeah, and actually also part of it is that it can be quite intimidating to as a person to talk to someone and not really being able to see their face because as human it's our nature to sort of we evaluate threats especially based on the face and sort of the facial expressions, and it can be very unnerving to not be able to see those expressions, even micro expressions, right? So it creates it creates a lot of friction in social interactions, you know, invisible frictions, friction that, you know, maybe it's just small enough to not really be an issue, but it does create friction, and on the macro level, that friction becomes quite high.
The bullshit shouldn't make exceptions for religion. Well, religion, why would I care about somebody's religion? If your religion says that you're going to break the law, then too bad. I guess you can't practice your religion.
I mean,
like the law overrules religion every time. It's not even what are we even talking about? It's common sense. And so, but masks are fine. I would say like masks definitely obscure more of less of your face than something like a full face mask, right? I mean, if like are we really going to say that like a surgical mask is the same thing as something that covers everything except for your eyes? I mean, like,
absolutely.
What are we doing here? And also, maybe masks are a problem. But like, I think that it's very obvious. A very obvious thing is that something that covers all of your face is an issue, right? That's
absolutely.
number one. Now, number two, what was the other one? I'm trying to remember what is banning.
Practices. Denmark banned full face veils in public in 2018.
Totally agree with that.
They've proposed banning the call to prayer.
If it's loud, yeah, sure. Yeah. You don't want to have a bunch of people, like, if you can't ring church bells and you can't do that, then why are other people able to do a call to prayer? Like, it's a public disturbance. It's not a Muslim country. Denmark is not a Muslim country.
I will say, I don't actually know much about this call to prayer thing. Maybe it's been banned, maybe it hasn't, but it's not a problem I've ever encountered living in a city. So it's, you know, it's really, at least today, it's a non-issue.
So having these policies where and like, again, if I went to Turkey, this is the problem, right? Is that I don't go to Turkey and then say Turkey needs to get rid of the call to prayer because I'm not a Muslim.
Yeah.
In the same way that I don't think Muslims should go to another country and then say, oh, well, we need this loud call to prayer so everybody knows about it. No, this is very clearly not the culture here, and you're trying to import your culture and make them listen to you.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't want Arabic blasted 5 times a day. Yeah, I don't want to have that. Absolutely. And Islamophobe take?
Not really.
I mean, I don't see how that would make any sense. It's not about... So the issue is the sound and the disruption to everybody else's life that it creates. So being Islamophobic would mean that you shouldn't be able to do the prayers.
Absolutely.
But whenever you're doing something in public, especially whenever it's invading other people's sound waves and other people's lives, now we're talking about something very different.
Yep.
That's not Islamophobia. Also, you should, just ban that guy. Just go.
And the thing is, you can do your prayers. You can do your prayers wherever you want, really. I mean, you know, in regards to the law, right? You can't do it on the streets. You can't do it, you know. I mean, if you go to where, let's say you go to the DMV, you can actually do your prayers at the DMV. You just can't do it you can't do it standing in line, you can't do it wherever you want, but they'll probably have a room somewhere where you can do it. So it's not about the religion either.
Back ban them. It's not a religious argument. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
They've cracked down on foreign imams, all in the name of preserving...
Oh, foreign imams? Yeah, totally justified. Some of those people are fucking nuts. And the reason, by the way, that some of those foreign imams are there is because they got kicked out of their Islamic countries for being extremist psychopaths.
True. And the problem is actually, when it comes to imams in Denmark, the problem is that a lot of the imams, they were there to recruit Danes, radical Islamists, to fight to fight for Al Qaeda or ISIS, something like that. So they were there to recruit people to become terrorists, fighting against the nation and sort of Western values, right? So it would be absolutely insane to let them
Dubai does this, UAE does this, and Saudi Arabia does this. If they have one of these imams that's popping off and going crazy, they shut that down too.
True.
So it's not Islamophobic unless you want to talk about an Islamic country being Islamophobic themselves.
Yeah, you got to do it.
What's an imam? It's a priest, like basically from like the nation, what do you call it, the religion of Islam, right? That's it, JFC. Yeah. Defending public interest equals Islamophobic. Yeah, exactly. And so they don't tolerate those idiots. Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, of course you shouldn't have them. And if they're extremist or trying to push extreme ideas and they're not even citizens here, I mean, Denmark probably has their own problems. They don't need to import problems from the third world.
Absolutely.
Danish values. Each of these policies is extreme on its own.
Yeah.
Together,
none of them are extreme. They're completely reasonable, and any normal person would have this opinion. The only reason why it's considered extreme is because you live inside of an apparatus that's been created in order to make you resent your own life, make you resent your own culture, and make you sorry for what you exist as. That none of these are extreme in any capacity.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, they're not extreme, but they definitely are controversial, and that's just because the entire EU just kind of gaslighted itself into to really not be making policy based on what's actually good for the citizens in the EU and in the respective countries.
This is what is extreme is thinking that you can go around wherever you want, fully covering your face so nobody can identify you. What's extreme is thinking that 5 times a day you get to ring a bell and make some really loud noise that everybody else around you has to hear because of your religion.
100%.
What's extreme is thinking that you can come to a foreign country and preach hate, extremism, and violence and not get deported. That's what's extreme.
True.
Getting rid of it isn't extreme. That's normal.
Yep.
Paint a clear picture. Denmark is making itself as unwelcoming as possible. The message to asylum seekers is simple. Don't come.
Do not come.
I mean, the thing is, it's about making yourself unwelcoming to the people you don't want to come. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you don't want people to come, make sure they don't want to come,
So why is this happening now?
Yep.
What's the crucial question that needs answering to help all of this make more sense? After decades of relative tolerance, why the sudden shift? Well, it's not one thing. It's everything coming together at once.
Of course.
Yep.
First, the welfare state. Danes are proud of their system. Free healthcare, free education,
I think that's
generous unemployment benefits.
You cannot have the...
I mean, even the most right-wing parties, they're not, they don't talk about repealing the welfare states and welfare systems, right? I mean, maybe they want to save some money here and there, but they don't want to abolish anything. They want to there's a kind of core welfare system in place, and everybody, no matter how far right you are, everybody agrees that you want to keep that core welfare system intact.
That's whenever you import a bunch of third worlders that can't even speak the language. This is something that can only exist inside of a high trust society.
Absolutely. I mean, if you import
the
third world,
you become the third world. But it only works if everyone contributes.
That's right.
When they saw billions being spent on immigrants who weren't integrating, who weren't working, who were drawing more than they were putting in, they panicked.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're putting in people that are a net negative, then what are we doing? Their defense is subsidized by the USA? Sure. But like on top of that, they were still able to do it before then, and now it makes it worse.
Didn't work anymore. Second, security fears. Denmark is a safe country. Crime is low. But high-profile cases involving immigrants, gang violence in migrant neighborhoods, even terrorism, like the 2015 Copenhagen shooting by a Danish-born son of immigrants.
Yeah, this was actually a huge issue, right? So there's an entire gang called Loyal to Familiar, which was, I mean, incredibly ruthless, carried out many assassinations, and just played a really big part in crime and gang wars, which was just, it was an immigrant gang. And then you also had sort of the freedom of speech was under attack in Denmark as well. And I know across Europe, freedom of speech, it sometimes can be a joke, right? Because especially if you look at the UK, like that's just a fucked up country. Like they basically have no freedom of speech, right? They'll release murderers from prison to imprison someone who made some tweet. That's absolutely insane. I think that, shows, especially right now, Keir Starmer's a good old pussy. But in Denmark, actually, freedom of speech is incredibly important. I think, it's about as important as it is in the US. And so when there was a newspaper that published drawings of Mohammed, and they were the victims afterwards of a terrorist attack, and that just absolutely blew up the anti-immigration sentiment. It became really focused on protecting Danish values, right? Because freedom of speech is a core Danish value. That's the entire thing behind this. The immigration discussion in Denmark is that we have freedom of speech, and everybody was able to participate. So in the beginning, when immigration, being anti-immigration was less popular, and there was people that would call anti-immigration politicians racists, and that's not really, that's not a good thing for a country, right? If you can't have an opinion. But that attack on that newspaper just absolutely blew it up, because first of all, I mean, the press, they are representatives of the freedom of speech, right? And if they can't publish a drawing, and they literally get attacked, they were attacked by an AK-47, right? Some guy with an AK-47 just came to their headquarters and started shooting at journalists. So it was literally freedom of speech under attack, under direct gunfire. That was absolutely insane, and it just fanned the flames immensely.
Immigrants left a mark. Many Danes started associating refugees with danger. Third,
well, yeah, they probably have a higher rate of violence and criminality.
Yeah, and they absolutely do. I mean, this is where you talk about the MENAPT countries, right? They are overrepresented in all these bad statistics. I saw somebody commented about it as well before.
I mean, it sure seems like it. I mean, and if you don't think that's the case, why is it that every other country in Europe that's accepted a bunch of these people has had their rape and sexual assault graph go up like this, except for Poland that doesn't accept any of it?
I will actually say on the rape statistics, especially surrounding Sweden, I think it's also about how do you define rape and at what rates are rapes reported, right? So in Sweden, I remember this from when I went to primary school. There was a kind of a joke where you'd have your buddy, you'd put your finger in his belly button for 3 seconds, and then you'd say, that's rape in Sweden. So in Sweden they do have a quite a low bar for rape, but obviously I think these, especially the MENAPT immigrants, they are overrepresented in rape crime statistics and sexual.
What do you think that is? Why could that possibly be happening? It's so obvious.
The parallel societies. This is a big one. Danes don't just want immigrants to live in Denmark. They want them to become Danish.
Yep. Surprise.
Oh! What?
Yeah.
What?
Who could imagine? Who could have imagined?
You can't do that?
No.
What do you mean?
That's illegal.
Speak the language,
Surprise,
share
Pikachu
the values,
face.
integrate completely.
Yes!
When they saw neighborhoods where Danish wasn't spoken, where women wore face veils, where kids weren't celebrating Christmas, they saw their culture being eroded.
Because it is.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
A future where Denmark wouldn't be Denmark anymore.
Yes.
And here's where it gets controversial. When the war in Ukraine started...
Nothing about this is controversial, by the way. The only people that think it's controversial are brain-dead retards.
Denmark welcomed over 41,000 Ukrainian refugees in 2020.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I will say it is controversial, not because it's a bad thing. It's controversial because there are brain-dead retards, right? The brain-dead retards are what make it controversial, because controversy is sort of a relative term, right? If somebody thinks it's a bad thing, then it becomes controversial.
Because Ukrainian refugees are going to integrate better into society than ones from third world countries from a totally different religion, totally different culture, totally different language.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot more overlap. You know, you think about a Venn diagram, right? Like the Ukraine and Denmark is going to be a Venn diagram, whereas a lot of these third world countries are just two separate circles.
1,000,000%. And also, actually, very quickly, the Ukrainian refugees, very quickly after they actually came to Denmark, they became net contributors, or, you know, at least they all very quickly became employed. They had very good employment statistics. So it was, you know, it was a really successful policy that also helped a humanitarian crisis in Ukraine.
2022 and 2023. Quick resonance.
And yeah, it's like that's the big reason. That's what makes sense.
Permits, immediate support, no controversy. Why? Because Ukrainians are European. They're
yeah, duh. Of course. It's crazy how these people can state these kinds of things as if it's an accusation, whenever in fact it's the best justification that you could possibly have.
Yep.
Yeah, duh. Of course.
Yeah.
Christian. They're seen as culturally compatible.
Because they are. They are. They're more culturally compatible. Anybody disagreeing with that is brain dead.
That's true.
And they're a liar.
The contrast is stark. It's starting to look like Danes will welcome refugees as long as they're the right kind of refugees.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that makes sense. That's what I do.
Yeah, 100%. It's about, you want high value immigrants, right? So it's not even about being refugees or whatever. It's about, is this good for the country? Is this good? Is this going to be a benefit or a negative to the people that live here right now? The people that we as politicians, as policymakers, have to protect. And, you know, these Ukrainian refugees, they were just a net benefit to the country because they assimilated very quickly. They also had a high incentive to return home. We'll see how long. You know, I think the incentives, of course, it's going to be going down the longer the Ukrainian war goes on for, because the longer they stay, the more attached they become to the country, right? But they do have an incentive to go home. But also, they very quickly became an integrated part of the labor force, which is one of the most important aspects of, you know, when it comes to assimilation.
It's smart. Yeah, duh. Of course. Oh my God. What is wrong with people nowadays?
And that's made the hardline stance feel justified to a lot of people. It's not about numbers, it's about culture. So there's one final question to try and...
Well, yeah, it's about culture and religion and values. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all of those are basically the same thing, right? Like, religion is so important for culture, right? And also for values. I mean, that's, religion dictates values almost, you know, so many values are dictated by religion, and in some cases, for extremists, all values are dictated by religion, right? So it's just obvious, right? It's all the same thing, basically.
Answer here. What does the rest of the world think about all of this?
That is the least important question in the world. Wow. Other countries think that you should import a bunch of migrants into your country. Oh, really? Okay, that's great. Why should Denmark care about the opinions of any other country whenever they're looking out for their own citizens? If other countries,
I mean, I will say the only thing that really should matter in this case, because it matters to the well-being of the country and the economic growth of the country, is what kind of brand is the country, and how does this brand help further the economic development, the business relations of the country, and our opportunities for exports, right? So it's not that it's the most irrelevant question to ask, but you just have to uh, give the right kind of answer, you know. And that's, you don't give the right answer if you think about morals and optics. Your morals should be towards your citizens.
are advocating for you to implement policies that put your own citizens at risk, then at what point are they not just trying to sabotage you?
Absolutely. And they will do that as
Denmark's
well. I mean, they absolutely will do that. They will try to sabotage you because they are going to be looking out for the best interests of their own citizens and their own countries. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, they will benefit from sabotaging you, because if they can convince you to take on all these immigrants, that's immigrants and refugees that they don't have to take on themselves. And so then they win off of that, right? So obviously, that's going to be the case. So you have to defend, your own interests. No one else will.
Transformation has shocked the world. Human rights groups call the policies cruel.
Human rights groups are bullshit. They shouldn't be taken seriously. All they do is they're weaponized in order to destroy these European countries and to make everything worse for people that live there.
100%. And I will actually also add to this that many of these sort of human rights groups and these welfare groups, Save the Children, they literally send out boats in the forget what it's called, the Mediterranean, the sea between Europe and North Africa, and pick up migrants and sail them back to the European shores. How fucking insane is that? They're literally making the entire crisis worse by facilitating the migrant flows. That's insane to me. I mean, I hate it. I absolutely hate that they can get away with it. Yeah. So they're total bullshit. Never listen to them.
They're filled up with Karens, and I think that if it was 100%. Up to me, I would defund every single one of them.
Yep, me too. Me too.
Yeah, I just completely stop giving them money.
I think the only organization I maybe wouldn't do is the Blue Cross in Denmark, which is of an organization that focuses on Denmark. So,
it doesn't matter. I don't want to hear a bunch. I don't want a new council of Karens that live in gated communities to try to tell me why it's a great idea to import a bunch of illegal migrants into my country that can't even speak the language that they will never have to see in their life.
True. I think it's basically true, right? Like somewhere between 95 and 99% of these ideological organizations, that's, what they called, right? Just all kinds of, defending all kinds of different ideological interests. They're absolute bullshit. Complete bullshit. And they will fuck you up if you listen to them.
Crazy. Yeah, human rights. Yeah, what about the human rights of the people that live in Denmark in order for them to
absolutely
to decide what's okay for them? This stuff makes me so mad. It makes me so mad because I see this as just such a complete inversion of ethics and morality,
100%.
And it's done in a way that is totally fucking what's the word? Like it's totally self-referential. It's completely selfish, and the people that are advocating for it never have to experience it.
Yep.
It's allowed, yes. It's suicidal empathy being weaponized, yeah. Never listen to any of this human rights stuff. You know what else they complained about? Bukele in El Salvador. And you know what he did? He put everybody in jail, and everybody else now lives in a paradise down there.
Yeah, it's
great. I'm sure it's not great, but I can guarantee you it's probably better than it was 15 years ago.
100%.
So never listen to these people. These people don't want to make the world a better place. They want to make themselves feel good, and they want to create a degree of importance for themselves by complaining about things. They should be totally defunded, and they have no value whatsoever. They're full of shit. Now there's free college in El Salvador? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I will say free college, free university, free education. It's not the mark of a great system, right? I mean, you have that in Argentina, but it's, that's still a fairly problematic country. I mean, because they spend, if they have $100 million dollar budget, they spend 200 million basically, right? So I think, you know, they have free education, but it's fucking up their entire country because they can't afford it, right? So I think that it's going to be very interesting in about 5 to 10 years when Javier Milei is done with the country.
Human rights.
Where they're going to end up.
What about the rights of the other 98% of people?
Yep.
They never think about that.
1,000,000%.
UN says they're harsh and possibly illegal, but inside Denmark, there's barely any outcry. The crackdown is popular.
Yep.
Asylum applications.
See, this is, everybody wants this.
It's dropped from over 21,000 in 2015 to just 2,095.
That's 2,095 too many.
In 2021.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
The government calls that a success. A YouGov poll from 2018 found that 65% of Danes were against accepting any more migrants. By 2022,
65% fucking based. I love it.
Yep.
46% of Danes stated that they wanted no more or only a few Muslims making residency in their country. Mette Fredriksen's government argues they're being realistic. When people realize they will be sent out of Europe, they will stop coming.
Duh, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Said one social democratic lawmaker defending the Rwanda plan. And they will stop putting themselves in danger, he added. Other countries are paying attention.
Now it seems there's a lot of more countries that have rallied around the notion that we should get democratic control of the migrant flows, and I'm just very, very happy that this is the case.
Denmark's strict immigration policies have found inspiration in Australia's Stop the Boats offshore processing model. And Denmark has been actively studying the Australian approach. Denmark's immigration
just don't let them come. There it is. It's simple. Are you anti-immigration on a principle, or simply because because of the state of the U.S. today? I'm anti-immigration generally out of principle. I think that bringing in a bunch of people into a homogenous society that don't share any of the values or even the language of that society will create problems, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that you can you can look at this as an abstract idea. And you can easily come to the...
I mean, it's easy to imagine, right? It doesn't even have to be abstract. It's just, you import the third world, you become the third world, right? I mean, it's as simple as that.
In conclusion, this will cause problems. Yeah, I mean, it's not like you don't have to be a genius or like a wizard or an economist to figure this out. It's so obvious. It's common sense. Yeah, it is. Legal migration, not legal migration for me? Well, if you bring in a bunch of legal migrants that also don't speak the language, that also don't share the reality, if you have a law that effectively allows your country to be subverted by foreigners that are coming into it, that are not assimilating, why do you have that law? If you have a law that actively works against the best interests of the country, why does it exist? So I think that really something being legal versus illegal matters, but even legal migration should be managed at a very low level in a lot of cases.
I mean, he absolutely gets to the base of it, right? I mean, because the laws are there to protect the majority of the country, right? It's the same with crime. The laws aren't there to protect the criminals. They're there to protect the victims and the law-abiding citizens, right? So if you begin to protect the criminals, you're going to fuck your own country up overnight.
And I think that a lot of countries think that they are going to solve their economic problems by just importing infinity third worlders.
Yeah, no.
I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, it's not. It's already
Minister even visited the controversial Nauru facility in
Assimilation's a myth. It doesn't work. Assimilation absolutely works. It 100% works, but it has to be slowly. A great example of this is every World War II movie is generally about 5 guys that get, drafted into the war. And one guy is from New York, another guy's from California, another guy's from Florida, one guy is from Alabama, and one's from Texas, from totally different lifestyles and totally different worldviews. And they come together to achieve something that's greater than themselves, right? And so really Fury, great example, right? That's a new one, right?
Yeah. but I think also it matters the like cultural differences, right? So these people from different United States in America, they're not culturally as different as if you come from the Middle East and you go to Denmark, which is a welfare state, right? So you also have to say, all right, well, if you are going to assimilate, for it to be successful, there can't be too many of them, right? Because if you just import enough people to live to create an entire town, and then you just have all these immigrants live in the same town, they're not going to assimilate because they're not going to be in contact with the rest of the society, and then that's actually what creates these parallel societies.
I watched that with my dad. And that's the point. So like assimilation does work, but it has to be done very slowly.
It can work, yeah.
And it also, not everybody will assimilate, of course, right?
100%.
But like
yeah.
you should want that to be the goal.
Practice. The UK designed its own offshore processing agreement with Rwanda by looking to Australia's model. Yep. And in 2021, Denmark became the first European country to pass legislation.
That's Denmark. Can't even spell their own country right.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Allowing it to transfer asylum seekers outside of Europe for processing.
Jeez.
Denmark
what are they
isn't
doing?
An outlier anymore. It's helping shape a new European approach to migration.
Yeah, this is what everybody in Europe should do. That's how it's actually spelled. I assumed that. I just thought I could get a little bit of reaction out of people.
Conclusion. Denmark's war on immigration is one of the most intense political shifts in modern European history. A country famous for happiness, equality, and openness has become a fortress. They've gone from welcome...
Well, yeah, it's a fortress so everybody can be happy and equal inside of the fortress.
Yep.
Duh.
Again, it's the walled garden, right? I mean, it's very simple. I think many countries would benefit from also using the Polish strategy, right? That's the difference, though, that Denmark can actually do this strategy. Poland is paying, I'm pretty sure about this, they're paying fines per day because they don't participate in the like refugee sharing scheme that there is in the EU. They don't take on any immigrants. So the EU is fining them, and that's insane. Maybe they stopped it because I think, the tide has been turning in the EU, but still it's not turning fast enough.
That's the whole reason why it's a fortress.
Refugees to aiming for zero asylum seekers.
Yep.
From integration programs to demolishing immigrant neighborhoods. From a humanitarian leader to a hardline enforcer. And it
should have never...
I mean, that's the ghettos, right? Demolishing immigrant neighborhoods. These neighborhoods classified as ghettos, they are being demolished, and they are building all types of housing for seniors, for families, for students, so it's supposed to be sort of a more representative neighborhood.
Than a humanitarian leader. And they should have been focusing on the humanity of their own people.
Working. At least politically,
again, I don't think that was a
Danish
mistake.
people support it.
Yep.
The far right has collapsed because the mainstream adopted their policies. Other countries are following Denmark's lead. This is a story of a society that tried integration, decided it failed, and chose separation instead.
They didn't decide it failed. They did studies, and the studies showed that it failed. There was like verifiable proof that it failed. It's not like, oh, well, they just decided that it was bad. No, there's a study on it, and it said that these people are a massive net negative to the money.
True. But also, it's just that it's not that we tried it and then we decided, oh, it failed. It's that we tried it and it worked, and then the situation and the migrant flows changed, and then it became unsustainable and began to fail and undermine the system, and then you had to react to that. That's how it works.
It's a story of fear. Fear of losing a welfare state.
Exactly.
Fear of losing cultural identity.
True.
Fear of losing control.
All justified, all reasonable, all completely patriotic concerns to have, and any Dane that has them, I totally respect. Anybody who's advocating for bringing in all of these people, I suggest that we send them directly to their house.
Denmark made a choice. They decided the costs of an open society were too high. And now they're showing the rest of the West exactly how far a democracy will go when its people feel threatened. The question remains.
No, it's actually it's not that bad. I mean, they're just getting rid of some of them. There's still a lot of them there. It's really not that bad.
Is this the future, or is this a warning? What about how Portugal solved the immigration?
I think that the only warning is the fact that it happened in the first place. I mean, this video presents Denmark as somehow a bad actor or somehow like problematic for doing this, but I totally support them, and I think that they're completely right.
I mean, I have to disagree. I don't think the video presents Denmark as a bad actor. I definitely think it tries to dramatize the policy, right? But I mean, I don't think it makes Denmark out to be a bad actor. That's not the way I see it. Yeah, but it's just, you just have to act. And I think I will also say I think it's quite funny to see that many of the sort of the stock footage videos that they used are just from all over Scandinavia. I don't blame them on that. It's basically all the same anyway, but it's quite funny when you're a native and you kind of, you know instinctively, oh, that's Sweden or that's Norway, that's actually Denmark. I don't,
They're completely right in doing this, and I'm totally on their side.
Yeah, 100%.
I think this is a great thing.
Yep, major. Completely agree. Yeah, so this that was Asmongold's video and
why Denmark
his
is sudden.
Yeah, let's just see what we got here. It's not immigration, it's invasion. I mean, kind of, yeah. When Christmas is seen as offensive, yeah, this is actually a huge issue in Germany that Christmas markets are a major target for terrorism. So when you see they're getting ready for their Christmas markets, they are actually deploying these huge boulders to prevent people from just driving straight through them with a truck or something. Yeah, every EU country leaders who put immigration before their own citizens should be jailed for treason, kind of. In Sweden, these people changed our national sport from football into throwing hand grenades. Yeah, basically, right? Sweden's a fucking third world country shithole today. I mean, there's so many places the police won't even go. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I mean, and even Sweden, here as a Scandinavian, we've had enough of these people. Get them out. Even Sweden is pivoting, right, and sort of modeling their immigration policy on the Danish policy, right? So it's, yep, yep. This is probably a Swede. That Denmark, unlike Sweden, has balls. Yep. Absolutely true. This unconditional love is a death sentence. It goes back to the prisoner's dilemma, right? You can't be charitable to uncharitable people because then you won't have any charity to give. That's just the way it is. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. If you think I was retarded in anything I say, I'd love to hear what you think. Yeah, put your comments down below. See ya.